I'm Teisha Bader with Shalom TV's news update from Monday, May the 19th, 2014. Israeli Justice Minister and Chief Negotiator Tzipi Livni today defended her meeting last week with Palestinian Authority President Mahmoud Abbas in London. Reports of the meeting and some criticism of the meeting was reported this weekend. An official in Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's office said that prior to her meeting with the Palestinian leader, Livni did brief Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu about it, and that Netanyahu had stressed to Livni that she would be representing only herself with Abbas and not the Israeli government. Netanyahu also reminded Livni that the Israeli cabinet had voted to suspend talks with Abbas after the unity deal with Hamas was announced, and that Livni too had voted for that decision. There was also criticism from some Knesset members, including Beit HaYehudi leader Naftali Bennett, who said that if it was hard for Livni to comply with the government's decision, she knew where the door was. Livni said today that meetings with the Palestinians would continue and that they did not constitute negotiations. She said, "We will continue to advance Israeli interest out of deep concern for its future. That is the task of responsible leadership." She added, "I remind everyone that the conflict with the Palestinians still exists. Israel's interest is to end the conflict." Livni said that while the unity pact signed between Fatah and Hamas was problematic, if we will have to think of alternative options to solve the conflict, that is what we will do. The meeting was the first between the PA president and a senior Israeli official since the collapse of peace talks last month. Elections for the next president of Israel will take place on June the 10th. The date was announced today by Israel's Knesset Speaker Yuli Edelstein. So far, 7 people are officially in the running for the presidency. They are veteran Likud Knesset member Ruby Rivlin, Likud Minister Silvan Shalom, former Finance Minister Meir Shitrit, who is now in the Hatnu'ah party, Labor Party veteran and former Defense Minister Binyamin Ben Eliezer, former Knesset Speaker Dalia Itzik, former Supreme Court Justice Dalia Dorner, and Technion Professor Dan Shechtman. Israeli President Shimon Peres will step down from the presidency at the end of July. And before that happens, Peres will travel to Washington, D.C. and meet with U.S. President Barack Obama. The Jerusalem Post reports that prior to that visit, the wife of convicted Israeli spy Jonathan Pollard, Esther Pollard, is expected to meet with Peres and urge him to try and push for her husband's release when Peres meets with Obama at the White House. Jewish groups here in the U.S. praised the Argentine court ruling last week that a joint investigation of Argentina with Iran on the 1994 bombings of a Jewish center in Buenos Aires was unconstitutional. As we reported to you last week, Argentina had signed a memorandum of understanding with Iran to bring to justice those responsible for the attack on the AMIA Jewish center that left 85 people dead. Many Jewish groups were outraged at the joint investigation with Iran, as the attack is widely believed to have been carried out by Hezbollah with Iranian backing. The Argentine federal court ruled Friday that the joint investigation conflicts with a prior investigation by the government, which concluded in 2007 that Iran bears direct responsibility for the attack. The American Jewish Committee's executive director David Harris said bravo to the court for rejecting this myth of criminals and victims cooperating on resolving one of the most heinous acts of terror in our time. B'nai B'rith International's President Alan Jacobs and Executive Vice President Daniel Mariachin met just last week with the Argentine foreign minister to express concerns over the investigation agreement with Iran. And after Friday's ruling, they said they welcomed the court's decision and hoped the Argentine Supreme Court would now ratify the ruling. And looking at some sports news, in a dramatic and surprising victory, Israel's basketball team Maccabi Tel Aviv beat Real Madrid last night in the EuroLeague Basketball Championship. The 98-86 overtime victory claimed a 6th European Championship title for the Israeli club. Over 10,000 Maccabi fans had traveled to Milan for the championship, and celebrations took place there as well as across Israel. Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu called team manager David Blatt And in referring to the holiday of Lag BaOmer, celebrated in Israel yesterday, he told Blatt, the people of Israel are lighting bonfires today, but you set the court on fire, and we're all proud of you. And turning now to our Shalom TV programming from Monday, May the 19th. Coming up at 7 o'clock, a new segment of the wisdom of Dr. Ruth Westheimer. Then at 7:30, Jewish Week editor Gary Rosenblatt shares what he believes are things to worry about regarding Israel and American Jewry. At 8 o'clock, ADL National Director Abe Foxman's address at the recent Limud Conference on issues for the Jewish community. And then at 9 o'clock, leading columnists Issy Liebler and Eric Yaffe debate the recent President's Conference vote to deny J Street membership, among other issues. That's on L'Chaim tonight with Mark Golub. That's here on Shalom TV and ShalomTV.com. And that's Shalom TV's news update from Monday, May the 19th, 2014. I'm Teisha Bader.